The San Jose Sharks are up on the prospect update. We'll cover their prospects from the NHL all the way down to junior on today's episode of Locked On NHL Prospects.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this podcast, we break down everything prospects related for you 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. I'm Hadi Kalakesh, QMJHL and crossover scout for Elite Prospects, with Sebastian High, USHL and crossover scout for Elite Prospects. And on today's show, we'll be breaking down the San Jose Sharks prospect pool in detail. In the first segment, we'll start with the NHL guys, and we got some big names to cover. Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, William Eklund, you name it, we got it. In the second segment, we've got the AHL guys, so Shakir Muhammad Yaroslav Askarov, Daniil Gushin as well. All three of those have played some NHL minutes, but mainly been playing in the AHL, so we'll cover their games in that league. And then some other guys in the AHL, Luca Cagnoni, Philip Bistad. There's a lot of guys to cover here. The San Jose Sharks have a very deep prospect pool, so you're in for a great episode. And then finally, in the final segment, we'll cover the prospects from other leagues. Quentin Musty, Sam Dickinson, Igor Chernyshov, Kasper Halttunen. The list goes on and on and on. We'll cover them all in today's episode. Before we get into any of this, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, super simple. You just create an account, LOCKEDONNHL, and you get $20 off. If you're watching on YouTube, as usual, remember to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think of the episode. And if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, please leave us a rate and review and make sure to make us your first listen of the day. So let's get started right away here with the big name from this season among NHL prospects. Macklin Celebrini, the recent first overall pick of the San Jose Sharks, has been on an absolute tear so far this year. Playing top 6 minutes, playing fantastic hockey. Talk me through what's made Celebrini so unique and special this year.
Unrelenting pace has really been key to his transition to the NHL with such smoothness. I mean, despite getting an injury in his first or second game of his career and missing about 10 games thereafter, he's still at a point-a-game pace this season with 10 goals and 20 points in 21 games with the Sharks. And he's been playing big minutes. He's been playing over 20 a night in 4 of the last 10 games. And when he's not hitting 20, he's playing 18, 19 minutes. He really is already being leaned on quite heavily by the Sharks coaching staff. And he's just been bringing so much dynamism and pace into San Jose's rush game. And the amount of dangerous chances he's been creating off the rush, the amount of puck battles he's winning, the amount of end-to-end rushes he's leading. He's top of the league in multiple of these statistical categories in terms of like per 60 production. And he's just been hyper involved and a real joy to watch already at the NHL level, really showing off just how mature his game is, which is what we were talking about his entire draft year. And we're really seeing it at the highest level now.
Absolutely. I think we'll keep the caller conversation for tomorrow's episode. Stay tuned for that. But for the moment, just in terms of what he's been bringing to the Sharks, it's been absolutely phenomenal to watch. 10 goals, 10 assists for 20 points in 21 games. Missed a bit of a stretch with an injury there at the start of the year, but came back, and it's as if that never happened. He's been really consistent with the effort, the energy, the maturity in his game. I think it's really easy to say, kind of looking back, that we told you so, because we were essentially just saying all year last year, well, not all year, but in the last 6 months of the year, we were basically like, yeah, this kid's going to be playing top 6 minutes right away for the Sharks, and he's going to do it well. Like, he's ready for it. Everything in this game is so polished, so mature. He plays such a pro game already. And at 18 years old, to be able to do that as a July birthday, right? Like, he's only going to turn 19 after the season.
Exactly.
After the Sharks season is well and done. So it's very interesting to see him kind of go about the way that he's been playing this year, because he's just been adding more and more layers to like the processing, the energy, the pace at which he plays. He's been phenomenal to watch. But we do have to talk about Will Smith as well, who's been playing NHL minutes so far this year. Less production. He's about at 10 points in 25 games, and hasn't been playing as well as Celebrini, not nearly as well, but I mean, that's a high bar. But what's made Smith kind of struggle this year? Why is he kind of struggling to keep up with the NHL game?
Same answer as with Macklin Celebrini. pace and energy, and is kind of on the opposite end here. With Celebrini out of the gate, they have been strengths of his game. With Will Smith, that has been really at the center of kind of the growing pains of adjusting to the NHL game. And even though Smith scored more points in the NCAA last season with Boston College than Celebrini did with Boston University, this was something that a lot of us scouts were also thinking in the offseason, that this would be a little bit difficult for Will Smith, whereas for Celebrini, it would be, he could do it in stride. And with Will Smith, the lackings in energy, in checking ability, in playing with the puck at high pace rather than slowing things down, which is still what his default instinct is, to try to create and manufacture playmaking sequences. At the NHL level, you just get physically overwhelmed if you try to slow things down in that way without trying to initiate contact, without trying to bump off of other players to access little pockets of space. And with Will Smith, a lot of that physical maturity is still coming through. So don't be shocked if he's going to need another year to really adjust to the NHL level. That said, as you mentioned, he's up to 11 points in 25 games. That's a really big jump from his early season production. I believe he had to wait like over 10 games for his first goal in the NHL, or right around the 10-game mark. He had no assists in that span either. Yeah. But ever since those first points started coming in, there has been a bit of an influx of them rising up in Will Smith's game now.
Absolutely. Now, we do have to talk about a prospect who's basically established now in San Jose. He's made himself a staple of their top six. William Eklund is up to 25 points in 32 games this season, 5 goals and 20 assists. That split can be a bit concerning, right? You know, you like to see your playmakers, but when it comes to quadrupling your assist totals compared to your goal totals, I mean, something's going on there. At the same time, Eklund's playing with Alexis Celebrini, who's a really good sharpshooter. He's playing with, Mikael Granlund and Fabian Zetterlund at times. His profile has always been that a bit more of a playmaker, but I do want to see a bit of goals uptick with Eklund. I want to see him shoot the puck more, kind of get involved offensively a bit more. He's 22 at this point, like we mentioned, well established. He was drafted 7th overall in the 2021 NHL draft and was one of my favorites from that draft class. I had him top 2, top 3 pretty much all year. And it's mainly because of how good he plays inside contact, how well he plays inside of small spaces, his ability to wriggle through checks and kind of find small pockets of space to work with. It's all really, really polished and phenomenally kind of executed with Eklund. At the same time, the frame hasn't really changed all that much. He's still 5'11", about $180. So he's added a bit of weight since this draft year. But I think the physical game is still something that he needs to kind of get comfortable with. I compare him, for example, with Victor Eklund, his younger brother, who's eligible for the 2025 NHL draft. Victor Eklund is just, he's unhinged on the forecheck. He just throws himself at every check, reverse hits, inside contact, gets inside opponents' hands, and just consistently plays in-your-face hockey. I think Eklund is a bit more subtle, a bit more finesse-oriented. But I think there's still a very good prospect here in terms of what he'll be able to become. I don't think he'll reach the true above point per game level at a consistent level unless the San Jose Sharks really become an offensive powerhouse and lean heavy into offense. But in terms of what he brings to the game, I think he'll be a very, very good top 6 forward for the San Jose Sharks for years to come. Even when they're a better team, even when they're a contender, he'll be a reason that they are, rather than just being there by default this year. Like we're seeing, for example, with Mikael Granlund. As much as I love him, he's above a point per game. That's great. I don't think he'd be a top line forward in a consistent top power play guy on, the Colorado Avalanche. Well, maybe this year with the with the amount of injuries they have. But, at the same time, Eklund's just phenomenal. I really like the playmaking skill. I really like the finesse game and the small area playmaking and handling that he shows. He's very, very good. But lastly, one other rookie is playing in the NHL this year. He's playing third pair minutes for the Sharks. Henry Thrun. How's he been doing this year?
Yeah, he's been chugging along. He hasn't been drawing all that much attention in his third pair role. He has 8 assists through 27 games this season, which is perfectly fine production when you're playing 13 to 15 minutes a night. And he's just been pretty solid as a facilitator from the blue line. He's a decent enough a passer. He's quite helpful in the breakouts, but he's not going to do anything overly flashy. He's not going to be a player that can break games open or be a reliable shutdown shutdown defender either. This isn't a player with a standout strength that really makes him shine. He's a solid, intelligent, decently mobile right shot defenseman, 6'2", 190. He's been perfectly solid on San Jose's third pairing for what can be expected of a third pairing defenseman in San Jose at this point in their rebuild stage. But I think that wraps up this first segment for us. In the next one, we're going to be breaking down the AHL talents with the San Jose Barracuda. There's a lot of big name prospects there to dive into, including Yaroslav Askarov, the big name acquired in the offseason. But before we jump into all that, a quick message from our sponsors over at Gametime.
If you're looking to buy cheap tickets last minute to any event, Gametime is the best place to secure them. Gametime is safe, secure, incredibly easy to use, and they are obsessed with saving you money. At every step of the way, they'll give you some savings, flash deals, zone deals, last minute deals, you name it, they have it all, and they're really good at finding you the best deal. So good, in fact, that they have the Gametime guarantee. If you find a ticket in the same section and row for less than what Gametime has to offer you, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. And it's not just for sports; it's for anything that requires tickets, comedy, theater, you name it, they have it, and they're really good at, again, finding you the best deals on your tickets. My schedule changes around a lot, so I'm very comfortable just pulling up Gametime and just seeing what events are available in my area. And an hour before, the minute of, or even an hour after the event starts, you can still find the tickets for the event at Gametime. To take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, super simple. You just create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. So download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Alrighty, so moving on to our second segment, we'll be talking about the AHL prospects, the prospects from the San Jose Sharks who are playing with the San Jose Barracuda in the American Hockey League. And we have some decent names here that are producing really, really well. And I think we can start with, let's start with Colin Graf, who's leading the team in points, 22 points in 23 games. This is only technically it's his first full pro season. He was signed by the Sharks out of the NCAA last year. Had a phenomenal year in the NCAA, phenomenal couple of years actually. He's been performing really, really well over in the over in the NCAA. Played 7 games for the Sharks last year at the last stretch after signing his ELC. And now is playing with the Barracuda and has 22 points in 23 games, 5 goals, and 17 assists. He was a staple of that Quinnipiac offense, and they went far in a couple of NCAA runs, right?
They did. I mean, they made it all the way to the final in his first year with Quinnipiac, where he arrived from Union College and arrived with an absolute bang, scoring 21 goals and 59 points in 41 games in his first year there. And I mean, it was just a legendary season for that program to just win all there is to win in college hockey. And he backed that up with a really strong season last year as well, with 49 points in 34 games. And as you mentioned, he's been off to a running start in the AHL. He's had no issues with the pace of play. He's not been struggling at all in terms of adjusting to the completely different style of play that the AHL has compared to the NCAA, with the uptick in physicality, in headhunting, and being able to navigate all of that. It's been a really smooth transition for Colin Graf. And he's, as you mentioned, he's at a point of game pace as a rookie in the AHL. There's only a few of those this season. They're a bit of a rarity. You have guys like Owen Beck, for instance, with the Laval Rocket, but in terms of centers playing first line minutes and scoring at a point of game pace, there are not many to choose from among the rookies in the AHL this season. So certainly a player for Sharks fans to keep their eyes on. But next, you want to talk about another interesting player here, a really big defenseman that's been in the talks of circling around an NHL lineup and being competitive in training camp for quite a few years now, with Shakir Mukhamadullin. How has he been this year? Is there going to be a chance of him becoming a San Jose Shark in the next year or two, or is his development really stagnating?
Well, it's always difficult to say when it comes to defensemen. You always want to give him a bit more of kind of runway, but Mukhamadullin has always had a lot of question marks surrounding his ability to just read the game at an advanced level, right? Like, that's always been the main issue. The tools have always been there. He's massive, a phenomenal skater, covers so much ice with that edge work, with that mobility. But the main issue with Mukhamadullin has always been just kind of his ability to just keep up with the game mentally, even at the MHL level, even at the VHL level. There were some issues with that early on in his career. Now, if you look back at the kind of progression year to year, he's been playing pro hockey since 2019, 2020. It's been a while that he's been playing pro hockey. And I feel like he's adapted in some ways to that kind of different style of game. He's on his kind of second game playing on and off NHL minutes, played 3 games last year, has played 2 games so far this year. In the AHL, 6 assists in 14 games. His production has actually kind of gone down since last year. Came in with a bang in 2022, 2023. Signed out of the KHL, 10 points in 12 AHL games. Then last year, 34 points in 55. Now this year is down to 6 and 14. So there's kind of been a steady drop in his ability to produce. But I actually like this version of Khamadulin more than last year's. He was a lot more erratic last year, and he was a risk, right? Like the Sharks took a big risk picking him at 20th overall in the 2020 NHL draft.
Trading for him,
rather, right? The New Jersey Devils signed
the Timo Meier deal.
That's right. In the Timo Meier deal, let me just restart the whole thing. So yeah, the New Jersey Devils took a big risk on him by picking him at 20th overall, and then the Sharks took another risk on him by trading for him in that Timo Meier deal. So very interesting prospect. I think the development's going to take some time, but when you're 6'4" and can skate like he does, there's already a great basis of skills to work with. Got a lot of prospects to cover though. Let's move on to Yaroslav Askarov, who's just been on an absolute tear in the AHL right now, just dominating that league right now, right?
He absolutely has been. I mean, a .938 save percentage in 14 games. And this is also after a bit of a slow start to the season in the AHL for Askarov. He came into the year injured, and the first couple games he played were a bit shaky, which brought a little bit of anxiety around the fan base. But when he caught his footing, he really did. And he's even played a couple games at the NHL level this season where he won one and had a .927 save percentage through both games. So a player that has just been really, really reliable wherever he's played so far since being acquired by the San Jose Sharks in the offseason in that big deal with the Nashville Predators that sent David Edstrom, a pretty interesting center prospect, the other way. And overall, he's certainly a player that still projects as a potential difference-making goaltender in terms of his potential. And I mean, from what we're seeing so far this season, which is added consistency in the AHL, as well as some flashes of reliable minutes at the NHL level, I'd be excited if I were a San Jose Sharks fan. This is a really good goaltending prospect and one that you could potentially build a contending team around, which is clearly what Mike Greer and the management staff had intended with that deal. But he's far from the last player to talk about on this list. I will hand you the baton on your favorite player in this prospect pool. Talk me through Luca Cagnoni of the San Jose Barracuda.
I am so glad he's doing well. 20 points in 23 games for Cagnoni. He's the top producing defenseman on the San Jose Barracuda. And he's been absolutely phenomenal from the point on the power play, just ripping shots hard and accurate from the blue line with great timing to get him through screens, to get him on net for tips, that kind of stuff. He has a very tippable shot, right? Like he's very good at placing pucks in the right areas for his teammates to be able to get their sticks on him. And he does it with purpose, with intelligence, with forethought. But on top of that, the transition game's been phenomenal. He's slowly but surely improving his rush defense, his end zone defense, to the point where he's getting very reliable in his defensive end and away from the puck. And, as good as you are offensively, you need to be able to defend, to be able to play NHL minutes. And I think at this stage, Luca Cagnoni's looking more and more and more like a bona fide NHL prospect. I think that he's going to be able to crack the San Jose Sharks lineup at some point. I don't think he's going to be a top pair defenseman, but if he can make it as a second pair kind of power play guy, I think that'll be a fantastic kind of development for his career, and he has the skills for it. I mean, he's just so intelligent, so refined in the way that he creates offense. I've seen it since day one with Cagnoni. Had him inside my top 20 in his draft class, and so far he's proven me right at every single step of the way. So I'm very, very happy about this development. A couple more prospects to kind of highlight. Danil Gushchin has been doing fairly well. 8 points in 14 games, has played some NHL minutes as well. Overall, he's still your high-end skill type of player, but he needs to bring a bit more. playing inside structure, playing better defensive hockey. Those are kind of the highlights of his game. And for me, I just want to see that kind of progress. With Philip Bistad as well, who's been playing in the AHL so far. He's been doing good as well. 12 points in 20 games, but still needs to come some ways. We've already mentioned Colin Graff as well. Like, this is a very deep AHL pool, and I'm very glad to see the Barracuda kind of just stack the roster with all these prospects in the AHL and letting them develop, helping them, letting them learn to win as a group, which will help them kind of graduate and be better NHLers. So overall, very, very good AHL team. They've been playing together for the longest time, and they're looking very good. But that's our second segment done. We'll get into our third segment here, where we talk about the other prospects in the pool, junior, other pro leagues, all that good stuff. But before we get into any of that, a quick word from our sponsors over at FanDuel and Rocket Money.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need all in one place to place live bets on the NFL. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the exact same page where you place your bets. Whether you want to take your swings on the NFL and American football or on the Champions League with European football, the choice really is yours. And perhaps you're not a football fan in any capacity and prefer tennis or golf, or if you're listening to this podcast, just maybe hockey is your sport of choice. Whatever it may be, FanDuel is willing to offer every kind of sports fan. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to me before. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a financial personal assistant at my side at all times. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together all in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 every single year using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've saved a ton of money in the process. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future, and there's no more stressing about budgeting every single month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
All right, so let's close things off here with our final segment where we'll be looking at the prospects playing in other leagues that are associated with the San Jose Sharks. That's, CHL, USHL, NCAA, Swedish Pro, you name it, just all of them. And we're gonna have to go rapid fire here because of how many of them there are. First of all, Quentin Musty took him some time to finally kind of settle down with the Sudbury Wolves. Had a disagreement with them, wanted to get traded out. Finally, didn't work out for him, and he went back. He's got 20 points this season, playing fairly well, but that whole kind of shtick and what happened there with the Sudbury Wolves didn't really benefit him all that much because they were winning without him. So kind of didn't really prove his point there in terms of him being able to warrant a trade request. But I think by far the most impressive prospect in this bunch has been Sam Dickinson so far this year. He's got 46 points from the blue line this year for the London Knights. Absolutely dominant offensively. Still a decent prospect defensively as well. The reads aren't always there, but when they're there, he's the best defenseman in the entire OHL. Like he's just so good when it comes to controlling play from that blue line. So very, very good season for him as well. We have a couple of other prospects who've had interesting developments. Some of them haven't played yet. But let's update them still. Igor Chernyshov, Matthias Havelid, talk me through them so far this year, what they've done this season, and why they're out.
Yeah, so with Igor Chernyshov, it's been a shoulder surgery that happened back in August to address an injury that happened a couple months before then. So he's still been out, but he is going to be joining the Saginaw Spirit in the OHL
Insane.
once he's healthy. Yet another reinforcement to potentially the most stacked lineup in the entire CHL at the minute. And I mean, the idea of a line between Michael Misa and Igor Chernyshov is just salivating stuff if you're a hockey fan. So no updates in terms of his play this season because, again, he hasn't played a single game just yet. But once he's back, there's definitely going to be a lot to look forward to. As for your other question, with Matthias Havelid, he's been playing a very quiet year this year with Linköping in the SHL. The 5'10", 176 right shot defenseman has a single assist in 13 games this season. Last year, he logged 12 points in 43 games. The offensive production just has never quite hit the ground running at the SHL level like was perhaps hoped in his draft year in 2022. So the production is slowing down. And with that, I think also a lot of the NHL projectability is slowing down with that because as a 5'10" and sub 180-pound defenseman, it always has been in the offensive game that his like projectable value has been held. And with this slowing in production, we'll see how he keeps developing, but I think that his chances of cracking the NHL, especially in an impactful role, have steadily decreased since being picked by San Jose, which is unfortunate because he's a prospect I really enjoyed watching in his draft year. The mobility is really dynamic, has a wicked shot from the blue line. There's a lot to like here, but he may just end up topping out as a really fun to watch defenseman over in Europe. But keep the conversation rolling here for us, Hattie, by covering Kasper Halttunen, who has played a little bit in the AHL this season, but has since transferred back to the London Knights.
Yeah, absolutely. So played a couple of games. I think had 4 points in 6 games in the AHL and got sent down. Still a phenomenal goal scorer. I mean, everything, like he just can shoot every puck in every way and loves to fire pucks on the net. That was clear last year. It's been clear so far this season. The points are still kind of progressing. He's only got 6 points so far this year, but hasn't been playing many games. So as he kind of gets back to the OHL style of play, as he starts kind of picking up more shifts, I think that Halton is going to be even more comfortable. But so far, I mean, we're talking about a big winger who loves to rifle pucks, one-timers, backhands, wrist shots, catch and release, you name it, he's got it all. Really good scorer. Cameron Lund as well has been pretty interesting so far this year. Been still playing in the NCAA, 18 points so far this season. And I think the progression is kind of stagnated. I don't think he's got much left to learn in the NCAA, but he should be able to progress slowly but surely in his career. Now, I think a very interesting prospect, though, in this bunch is Leo Saline Vilenius. He was just picked up in the second round by the San Jose Sharks. He's basically split his time so far between the J20, the SHL, and he's actually on loan right now with Nybro in the Hockey Allsvenskan. How's this game been this year? I mean, is there any kind of different approach from him? Any progression in terms of the way that he approaches the game, or is he still kind of the same player?
I think he's still a similar player, but he's being exposed to new situations, which is really important for his development. Last season, he didn't play a single pro game. Like this year really has been his pro debut, and despite those 7 games he's played at the J20 level, he's been playing mainly against pro competition this year, with 20 of his games coming between the SHL and Hockey Allsvenskan. And in the SHL with Vahwa, he didn't score any points in those 6 games. His minutes were rather limited, which is why he was then loaned to Nybro, as you mentioned, in Hockey Allsvenskan, where he has logged a goal and 6 points in 14 games. He's been playing bigger minutes against professional competition. He's still been bouncing up to the back to the SHL a couple times, so he's constantly switching between different leagues at the moment. Just in his last 10 games, he's played 3 games against the SHL, then a game against J20, then a game in the Champions Hockey League, then back to the J20, then the SHL, and then back to the J20. So he's been bouncing around all over the place this season, which doesn't help in terms of giving him consistency to really find his footing and just get into a groove, but is exposing him to professional minutes, which he really needed because last season this was a very, very junior habit kind of player. So a lot of things to iron out, and these reps are important in doing so. But Hattie, are there another like 1 or 2 players that you want to give shout outs to here for the episode?
Absolutely. So Eric Polkamp, great defensive prospect. He's been playing in the NCAA so far this year. Has some decent production at 14 points. Still your defensive stalwart, the type of guy you can rely on. We saw that at the World Juniors last year. Very, very reliable defenseman. Colton Roberts, a bit of the same thing, but a bit more erratic. He's got 16 points so far in the WHL, but still kind of finding his footing and understanding when to go, when to sit back. It's a bit more neurotic than Polkamp, but still a very good defensive defenseman. And then finally, Carson Wetch, who is your prototypical bottom six projection. He's going to be at least a fourth liner in the NHL. Not sure there's more than that in his game, but so far he's been finding his footing over in the WHL, playing with better teammates now. So I'm curious to see how Carson Wetch kind of progresses. But that's our episode done. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think of the episode. And if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, please leave us a rating and review and make sure to make us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, remember to check out Locked On Sports Today. They've got all your news and updates about what's going on around sports. And make sure to tune in for our next shows as we continue our prospect coverage for the month of December. This has been Hattie Kalakash with Sebastian High. Happy holidays, and we hope you tune in next time.